Hey all, Scott here. I have to make a decision. My life depends on it. What do I take? Well, this one does have Knuckles.
It's once again time to talk about Sonic
What?
the Hedgehog.
Oh, thank God.
Last time we checked in on him, he just absolutely crushed his fourth game. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was a fantastic experience. It just felt incomplete. Less stages in Sonic CD, Sonic 2, even Sonic 1 technically. The level design, power-ups, the sheer polish, it was on a completely new level, but right when Sonic 3 felt like it was getting started, the credits rolled. But see, it wasn't meant to be this way. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was planned as the biggest Sonic adventure yet. So big they had to cut the game in half to meet deadlines. You just couldn't fit the full adventure on one card in time. I mean, come on, Sega Genesis cartridges can't even hold me. But they do hold me accountable. Thus, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is more so Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Part 1, with Part 2 releasing later that same year, under the name Sonic and Knuckles. It's brilliant, really. If you were in the know, you knew this was Sonic 3 Part 2, but if you weren't, this just seemed like its own Sonic game, and you could totally play it like that. I feel bad for those who picked up Sonic 3 without this knowledge and felt like it was lacking, though. The level select code is so damn hard to pull off in this game. You have to be faster than slow in putting this in. And it's obvious why they made it so difficult. Levels that weren't in the game appeared on the list, implying Sonic 3 was meant to be far bigger in scope, with levels cut from the initial release. With 3 releasing in February of '94, Sega waited until June of that year to announce a new Sonic title for the fall with just the logo, date, and name. Sonic and Knuckles. It released on October 18th and featured something new, something revolutionary, something we all can't live without. Lock-on technology. Come on, picture my life without this thing.
Yes, it was the answer to my conception.
Sonic and Knuckles comes on this power tool of a cartridge with another cartridge port on top. It's like these double-ender game cartridges for Atari. These things always lead to amazing experiments. Look, they're kissing.
But Sonic and Knuckles is special. I mean, they made a lock-on technology logo just for this occasion. Now, with a cartridge port on top, you may be asking, Scott, what are you gonna do? Check it. Where am I?
This allows you to connect Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and presto! You have Sonic the Hedgehog 3 as it was originally intended. Where Sonic 3 ended initially, it now continues with the levels from Sonic and Knuckles alongside a trough of other features. However, we can also connect Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and with this, we get Knuckles in Sonic 2. If you ever think humanity is a waste, we did this. It's literally just Sonic 2, but you play as Knuckles now, which honestly is just as cool now as it was back then. It's commonly said, but it's true. Sonic and Knuckles was like downloadable content before downloadable content, and they could have stopped with connecting to Sonic 3. I mean, the entire point of lock-on technology was to give players the definitive full Sonic 3 experience. But they threw us a bone with Knuckles in Sonic 2, and on top of that, by connecting Sonic 1 or most other Sega Genesis games for that matter, you can play an endless amount of Blue Sphere bonus stages from Sonic 3. Or 134,217,728 Blue Sphere bonus stages to be exact. That's still pretty fun. I mean, I like Blue Sphere, but after that 30,000th time, it's okay. Actually, any random Sega Genesis game after pressing all the buttons on your controller will give you a random Blue Sphere stage. Sonic 1 will give you the stages level by level, but how would you know that? If you have any game other than Sonic 3 or Sonic 2 on top, it just says, no way, no way. Don't mock me with some of my favorite music in the entire Sonic franchise playing in the background. Just give me the damn spheres! I think if they did more stuff like Knuckles being in Sonic 2, now, that would have been wild, and it was discussed for Sonic 1, though they decided against it, considering Knuckles' playstyle to just not fit that game well. I would have still taken it compared to just Blue Sphere, though. I mean, Knuckles doesn't fit Sonic 2 that great either. However, there's still a certain magic to plugging games into this cartridge and seeing new junk. It's something I'm surprised more games didn't do. Like, come on, you put all this work into a lock-on logo, at least license it out to something like guns. You know, Sonic and Knuckles was a Sonic game I haven't owned physically until just recently. I think that's because since this is a later Genesis game, they used cardboard for the box. So I always thought, oh, I see Sonic and Knuckles at this game store, but I'll just wait until I find a copy in better condition. That day never came. So I bought this one on eBay, and now I can finally feel a game that I've only merely just seen as a part of Sonic Mega Collection, which is where I was introduced to the game as a kid and where I initially thought Knuckles was Sonic's girlfriend. I mean, this logo, come on. There are a couple. Similar to Sonic 3, I played a lot of Sonic and Knuckles on Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of the first stage. All I said was I thought Knuckles was a girl, never said I wasn't bad at games too. Well, it's been a wild ride. For the past 4 years, I've played through each of the classic Sonic games, and now I've reached the final one. The final one. I'm finally ready to not get laid for the 5th time! Let's start off with vanilla Sonic and Knuckles, regardless of how incomplete the cartridge looks. Let's play Sonic and Knuckles. I'll give the game this. The title screen is much better than Sonic 3's. Every time that one started out, I flinched. So we get to choose between two characters.
I hope one of them's Jimmy Buffett.
No, it's just Sonic.
And?
Oh shit, they got Knuckles in this game? I always thought this was a typo. Strangely, these are the only options we have. We gotta pick a character we want to play the entire game as, because when we select it, that's it. We're in the game. No cutscene, or more shockingly, no save file feature from Sonic 3. Listen, I get they needed to cut costs. I mean, it's expensive to put another hole on your body. Plus, they just expect you to plug Sonic 3 into the cart to get full saving functionality across the whole game. However, this was sold as its own game, on top of being the second part to Sonic 3. Just like a password feature or something would have been nice. Hopping into the game, it's Sonic 3. At least in terms of presentation, level design philosophy, power-ups, controls, special stages, Sonic and Knuckles is just the second half of Sonic 3, which is made incredibly obvious by the first stage. This just doesn't really feel like a first level in a Sonic game. It's too busy. I mean, it's a fun zone, but it just doesn't feel like the opening acts to other titles in the series. This is obviously the halfway point in a game. And this was where I got stuck as a kid. So you get to this lever-type device, and Sonic just hangs there, and I thought,
well, I've done everything I can do.
in reality, you're supposed to hit down multiple times to seesaw up.
I was a sheltered child. My parents didn't let me use this button until 14.
Of course, we can also play as Knuckles, though we have to decide to play as the entire game as Sonic or the entire game as Knuckles at the start. We can't change our mind later.
Sonic and Knuckles is harder than choosing a major.
Well, this is because Knuckles and Sonic's stories throughout the adventure are different. They're similar, and most of the levels are the same, though you do have some differences based on the character you select, mostly with some of the boss fights. But both characters have their own abilities. You pick Sonic because you're too insecure about deviating from the norm. You pick Knuckles if you climb walls and fly. Do the Knuckles give him that ability? No, apparently it's his dreadlocks.
Okay, good, that's cleared up.
Knuckles' moveset is a bit tricky to get down, which does give us a perfect balance to the playable Sonic characters. Knuckles is hard mode, Sonic is normal, and Tails is easy. So why can't I find him? Easy to use, easier to lose. Yeah, Sonic and Knuckles on its own is just like Sonic 3. Wait 1 second. Just like Sonic 3. Tails isn't even with Sonic in his levels. At the very least, I would have expected that. Without the save feature, opening cutscene, or Tails, Sonic and Knuckles brings us back to a simpler time. The worst time of my life. I know why it's like this. Sonic and Knuckles has to act as both a part 2 and as a standalone game, so you strip out these features and make them accessible when plugging Sonic 3 into the cart. But at the end of the day, Sonic and Knuckles on its own feels like a tremendous step back from Sonic 3. I mean, it feels just like Sonic 1 without even an opening cutscene. Speaking of the opening cutscene, I'm surprised I haven't asked the only question I ever tend to ask during Sonic games.
What's happening?
Taking place right after Sonic 3, Sonic continues his quest to stop Robotnik on Mushroom Hill, but Knuckles was still tricked by Robotnik to think Sonic was a bad guy, so he's still trying to stop him. Sonic, Christ, get a fucking lawyer! So pretty much, Sonic and Knuckles is just Sonic 3 continued in every conceivable way outside of, well, Tails isn't here. I will say, the story, while it is a continuation, feels a bit held back by being a standalone part 2. Like Sonic 3 ended with Sonic defeating Robotnik, so then Sonic and Knuckles continues the story by saying, well, Sonic defeated Robotnik, but he got back up again.
To be fair, that's every Sonic plot, but with this being a direct continuation, it kind of feels a bit like, why? Knuckles' story is a bit strange, as many official Sonic sources imply it occurs at the same time as Sonic's.
Which doesn't make any sense. If it did, then you would see the parts where Knuckles and Sonic interact in Sonic's story, but you don't.
Hey, here we get our cutscene.
Knuckles' story seems to be taking place after Sonic's story, with Knuckles hanging out and then getting pissed off by an egg robo. So he plays through a whole Sonic game just out of spite. Well, the game starts off at Mushroom Hill Zone, a solid ROM, but a questionable first level. How would a beginner know the down button exists? You get stuck on loads of vegetation, but that plus the amount of bouncy platforms give the stage such a lively feel, almost like there's a rhythm to everything. Like I said, the special stages are the same as Sonic 3's, Blue Sphere, but the bonus stages you enter by jumping into the checkpoint with a certain amount of rings are new. And nothing was gained.
There's actually 2 separate bonus stages in Sonic and Knuckles, which combined with Sonic 3's mean we have 3 different bonus stages. They weren't kidding when they said they wanted to make this the ultimate game.
Next up is Flying Battery Zone, a stage on a blimp. Thank you. This level's filled with scrap metal and technology from Robotnik, and it's awesome. It's weird to me how well a Sonic level inside of a blimp feels like a Sonic level inside of a blimp. The music is amazing, much like the rest of the Genesis Sonic lineage. And Flying Battery Zone may be one of my
favorite tracks. It really makes the level feel so exciting yet dangerous. Sandopolis, well, they can't all be winners. I don't care for desert stages. In the first act, it's alright, and the boss fight at the end of it took a few tries to figure out. Like, how do I kill this guy? Oh, I just stand to the left and he'll just walk up and kill himself. Okay, Act 2 is a piece of garbage. It's like a sort of labyrinth where everything looks the same and you f up one jump and bam, I'm 20 miles down with no hopes of getting out, and on top of that, there's ghosts. Well, that just makes everything worse.
Damn it!
I hate this stage. It took me 45 minutes to get through, and next up was Lava Reef Zone. Ugh, I mean, it's better, but it's similarly easy to get lost in. It took me forever on my first try. Next up is Hidden Palace Zone, which primarily just serves the purpose of being a boss fighting cutscene zone. Just one act, and it's mainly just to give you a fight against Knuckles and for Knuckles to realize you're not a bad guy, and Robotnik's been lying to him this whole time. You know, this zone is a reference to the famous Cut Zone in Sonic 2, named the exact same thing. It's cool to see it return as a part of Sonic and Knuckles, but it's honestly more cutscene than zone. Well, immediately afterwards, we're in Sky Sanctuary Zone, another one-act deal. This one, pretty good. Alright, we pissed the bed with Sandopolis, shit in a car with Lava Reef, and f***ed my dinner with Hidden Palace. This one is challenging, but really fun. And then the final traditional stage, Death Egg Zone. Back to 2X. This dumbass anti-gravity section. I was in the air for so long, and I don't know what I did to stop it from happening, and I'm taking that lack of knowledge to the grave. You know, I said this before, but as good as classic 2D Sonic platformers can be, they almost always had some level of bullshit to them. I love Sonic 2. It has its moments. But Sonic 3 was shockingly absent of that. And now I know why. Because that was all in the second half of the game. We defeat Robotnik and his middle fingers, and that's Sonic and Knuckles. Partially, because if you beat 7 special stages and get all 7 Chaos Emeralds and unlock Super Sonic, you then get the true final boss. This is cool. And that's Sonic and Knuckles. Not really. The true final boss here, while fairly easy all things considered, gives the whole true Sonic 3 experience a bombastic finale. It's one of the first major final bosses that's more flashy than difficult, but I don't think that's all too bad. I remember final bosses that make you feel like a badass just as much, if not more so, than the most difficult and tricky ones.
Yeah, Sonic and Knuckles is another fantastic time, though I think on its own, it's a bit lackluster compared to Sonic 3. Like, I just don't care for a good chunk of the zones here, at least compared to Sonic 3. They're not bad, though compared to Sonic 2's and 3's best zones, they're just not as fun to me. So, I've decided the definitive list of the best classic Sonic games. At the bottom, Sonic Cease and Desist. Next up is Sonic 1. Whenever I replay this one, I pretty much exclusively just play Green Hill Zone, and when I get to Marble Zone, I just reset the console. Followed by Sonic and Knuckles. It's a good game, just not my favorite compared to the others. Then Sonic 3, and then Sonic 2. And I think Sonic 2 has higher highs than Sonic 3, which is just more so consistently good throughout the entire adventure. But then it ends right when it feels like it's getting started, and the same goes for Sonic and Knuckles. So Sonic 2 is my favorite. If we're not counting the best Sonic game.
Combining Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, we get Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, when the number 3 just isn't enough. As stated, this turns Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles into one connected and seamless experience, and honestly, this rocks! It's unfortunate the game had to be split up like this, as I feel like both titles on their own feel somewhat lacking because of it. But together, it's no debate, this is one of the best 2D platformers of all time! The amount of great ideas, gorgeous sprite work, amazing music, it feels right out of a modern platformer, but to see concepts so advanced and well thought out in a game from 1994, it's mind-blowing. Both games together may take a bit longer, but hey, you have the save feature from Sonic 3 included. You can play as Knuckles from the very start, and due to the combination of 2 games worth of levels, you have more special stages to beat. And beating more gives you Super Tails, Super Knuckles, and Hyper Sonic! Sweet Christ! This is the definitive 2D Sonic game. Well, at least when it came out. And it's a shame this version of the game always gets neglected in re-releases. Sonic Mega Collection, it's there, but you have to open Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles 20 times each to unlock it. I mean, just opening and closing immediately works. I earned this. And Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection on Xbox 360 and PS3, they have Sonic 3, they have Sonic and Knuckles, but you can't combine the two. That's something I think any collection or re-release of these games should have, and many do, but that just feels like a massive oversight. Playing both games separately highlights how inadequate they each feel as their own game. They're still fantastic titles, but it's just a fact. They're both incomplete experiences, but together, they make Squeal.
Well, I think this has been an incredible experience, finally playing through these games that were still a big part of my childhood. I may not have gotten far in these games as a kid, but I would boot them up all the time and just run around in these stages. Just seeing those 3D models of Sonic on the title screens for 3 and Knuckles, It was mind-blowing, and I was playing these games on the GameCube. I just found the evolution of these games from start to finish to be amazing. And I think people don't give these games the credit they deserve, especially Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The amount of creativity and polish in these Sega Genesis games is honestly something I think more people need to appreciate. But they chose Knuckles over Jimmy Buffett, so I think they were kind of asking for it. Well, I'm done with Sonic. You know, I put off years of colonoscopies just due to my business surrounding playing all these games, but now I'm free. So tell your family's proctologist to clear their schedule. 12 years from now.